welcome to episode 3 of our Coach's Corner podcast. I'm your host, Yasmin, and I am here with Joe Bogle and Professor Theresa Walsh. We're really excited to have Professor Walsh here with us today to talk about optimizing the instructor-student relationship in an online learning setting. She is not only an incredible professor, but she's a fantastic, wonderful person. Our students love her. We love her. She has a wealth of experience and knowledge in both traditional and online higher education, and we cannot wait to discuss these topics with her and get some knowledge from her. Joe, do you want to add anything before I have Professor Walsh introduce herself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again for being here, Theresa. We very much appreciate you. Just piggybacking off of everything Yasmin has already said and the rest of the team. We really appreciate you in terms of just how you're able to be a professor and kind of have like that secret sauce, as we already know, but we'll kind of be able to get out a little bit more in the discussion today. So I'm just, looking forward to everyone else being able to see what a model professor should look like here at campus. So I'll let you take it from here, introduce yourself, and we can get it started.
Thank you so much for your generous introduction. I'm honored to be here to be in Coach's Corner and also teaching at campus. I think it's a really important program. A little bit about me. I grew up in the South Bay. I feel like that's starting way too far back, but I grew up in the South Bay area. Like I was born.
We need the origin story.
Yeah.
The background.
Yeah.
Give us the background.
I went to a high school that and for probably various reasons it really didn't prepare me for college. And I worked for a good 8 years in hospitality. And then I returned to community college when I was in my late 20s, and transferred to a university. And then I went back to hospitality after that for a couple years, and then I went on and earned my master's degree. And I'm currently in I'm in a PhD program, distance learning PhD program through Texas Tech University's distance program, and so like sort of the big picture that I think is relevant to our context here is that I had to go back to earn my degree, and that's a particular challenge that I understand from my own perspective, and then upon returning, had to kind of navigate my way through and find opportunities that were sort of like unconventional or not really very traditional. So for instance, the PhD that I'm earning is something that I figured out I could do I could pay for by teaching extra classes at my home institution, which is UC Davis. I teach first year seminars, and that funds my tuition. And so I've been, I really like to work my way through systems and find opportunities when they aren't entirely apparent to me. But one of the reasons why I went on to pursue the PhD was initially because I was teaching hybrid courses at UC Davis, and I had never known learning in a hybrid environment, in an asynchronous learning environment, or in an online environment myself. And I thought that would be it would sort of be a two-pronged education, right? The content of the degree as well as the sort of platform learning stuff. And it's serving me as, I think, a teacher, and as a student. So that's me.
Thank you for sharing all of that with us.
Yeah. Sorry I started so far back.
But that's important. You had mentioned that you had gone this non-traditional path, and I think we're seeing this shift in education where nothing is really traditional anymore. There's no like right or wrong way to pursue education, and this program proves it. What we're doing proves it. So I would love to hear more about the program that you're doing and just your experience teaching in both traditional and online settings, and
Mhm.
how all of your experience as an educator and also your experience now in this program has helped influence the way that you teach and instruct students.
Yeah, so the program that I'm in at Texas Tech is a it's a technical communication and rhetoric program, which is um it's sort of, and then like its situatedness in the distance learning world, and like sort of they were sort of trailblazers in that regard, um is is I think really important um to my experience as a teacher and as a student, and so like, because not only is the platform and how we learn in that program critical, but we also study those things. So like design, and usability and user experience, these kinds of things are, I think, crucial to online learning. As a student in the program myself, I started to realize, and I think a lot of people experienced this too during the pandemic, like the sort of the shelter in place portion of the pandemic,
Right.
um, the anxiety of not knowing where people were at, or like the anxiety that's associated with like sending an email to somebody, or during the lockdown, just a text and waiting for that response is like, and that is like, when you're a student and you're entirely online and you're coming in from your own experience, in like you're entering into it in from your world into this other new space, like I think that sort of relationship is something that I consider central to online teaching and learning. Like when I regard my students, when I get an email or I see somebody isn't there, I think, like it's a bidirectional thing, where like I think about, as a student, when I send an email and I don't hear back, I worry that the teacher read it and didn't like it, or like, or maybe didn't read it at all, or maybe it never even got there. I don't know. They're not responding. How do I know? And but then as a teacher, and you both know this, this is how our relationship works. As a teacher, when people don't show up, I'm like, where is everything okay? Like, I don't know. And so, and I'm like, I want to just make sure that where everybody's doing okay. And so like, like, I guess my answer is that anxiety is very central to my online pedagogy and learning, you know. But yeah, that's sort of, I think, does that answer the question, I think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Tapping into
Yeah,
that empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, gotta be empathetic. Okay, cool. Thank you for that response. I got
Yeah.
one for you.
Okay.
Um, so kind of going off of that a little bit, building a rapport with students is essential in any learning environment. How can students establish a sense of community and trust within an online class? More specifically, how can they best partner with their instructors for their academic success?
I think, I mean, I think getting out ahead of, I think really initiating relationships is crucial in online learning, and like professors will do that, instructors will do that. They'll try to build structures into the classes where
Right.
we, I'll put in, like, I'll try to do discussion board, or like discussion, like chat conversations, where I'm like, share a thing that we just talked about in class, and now respond to somebody who shared a thing and tell them why something, and like sort of, so I can build that stuff in. But as far as students reaching out into the relationship with instructors and with other students, um, well, instructors, I think like going to office hours is crucial. Um, Keeping people updated. I mean, this is so my preference is, you know, like you said, building off of the previous answer and question, right? This one, like to, you know, avoid that anxiety and that sort of silent space, in communication, like just get the ball rolling, like jump into it, start talking to people, be like, who are you? Come to, like, I think people are very hesitant to go to office hours unless, like, I think we think of office hours very often, especially in the first 2 years of college, as a place you go when something's wrong. It's totally not. It's like,
Right.
it's like a very great, it's like a really huge opportunity to sit with somebody who wouldn't be the person that they are in your world, wouldn't be a teacher if they didn't care about what they do and how you are doing in the work. But so they want to know you, and so I think that going to office hours and really communicating in the first place, before you feel like that'll make everything so much easier. Like if something does, interrupt, your quarter or something, and you find that you have sort of slipped on a deadline or something, it's going to make that conversation so much easier too for both people because you know each other by then.
Right. Thank you for that. I'm so glad you said that. I've been telling students office hours, office hours, office hours. And like, I think as a coach, I really want to change the narrative around, maybe it's the phrase, right? Like it sounds very business
Office
casual,
hours.
Yeah.
right? Like office hours, like
Totally.
you might as well call it detention, right? But like at
Totally.
this point,
You're so right about that.
right? So like, how can we change the narrative? Maybe we give it like a new name, but I think it's really one of those places where like the professors want to give knowledge. They want to be able to be like, oh, like great, I
Right.
have more time with you. Let me make you
Yep.
like maybe make sure you understand this concept a little bit more, or this is why I brought this up in class, and I think it gives a little bit more fine tuning to like why we're doing this, right? And I might come off abrasive or a little bit harsh in class, but this is why, because I see it in you, and it could be anything. But I think if
Yeah.
we're really able to like kind of change the narrative around that, is like, yo, just come see me, and it's like not a bad thing. Like let's huddle. Like I don't know what you want to call it,
A
but I think
huddle.
we
I
should change.
love that
Let's huddle,
idea.
right? Like let's come up with some other things here. But I love that you said
Huddle
that. So thank
hour.
you. Yeah.
Huddle hour. I love
Huddle
that.
hour.
Yes.
Huddle. Brainstorm.
Let's huddle.
Let's huddle.
Oh my gosh.
That's
Joe,
so good.
you nailed it right
I'm
on the head. And I'm also really glad that Theresa brought this up because I think so many times, especially students who may have not had the best experience with their education, see professors, see coaches, see counselors as an authority figure that might not feel good to them. It's like they're afraid of being vulnerable and opening up because it's like, oh, I have to go to office hours. I must be in trouble. I'm going to get yelled at. It's like Joe said, it's like detention or going to the principal's office. And we're trying so hard to change that narrative. And I think Theresa does such an excellent job at connecting with her students in general. And it's like, you can teach people stuff, right? You can teach people concepts, but there's a delicate balance between being able to educate and do it well and also connect with your students and make them feel safe. And I think you do such a lovely job with that. And I know that students feel so safe in that environment. And I think that has a lot to do with creating safe spaces in online learning as well, because you've got four walls around you. There's like, you can't tell all the time, like body language or like tone might come off different. So creating that safe space is paramount. And I think we should change office hours to huddle hours.
I think huddle hours is the move. I think that's the best idea. I love that. Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say one other thing. It kind of reminds me of that. I think I put it on my plane now. Go ahead. It'll come back to me.
Oh,
yeah.
I was just gonna say. I think all I was gonna say was that I think what students maybe also don't realize is that, and like I can only speak for myself. I don't know. Tell me if you agree, like from where you're coming from. But I feel like my position as an instructor, as a professor, is I'm like a glorified certified nerd. That's all I really am. I'm just like very, like, I really mean it. I love doing it. I want to help. I want people to come talk to me about the things, and because it's, and I feel like we all sort of have a kind of like a true blue sort of element to us that I think students can find approachable when they when they decide to believe that that's really who you are, you know, that you really
Right.
do care and that you really do just want them to come and you want to help them, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 And I found my point finally came back to me, and what it really is leverage. All right, like it's leverage kind of on both ends. You know, for the student, if you know something goes bad in the middle of the term, and they need to like, hey, I need an
Yeah.
extension. This is what's going on, or even for you, if you were to teach them like at a later point, you know, further down the line, like it's great leverage. You already have a rapport now, and then on top of that, like you know, let us a recommendation. Like there's like
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
Yes.
reasons why this comes into play.
That's
And it's not just
so
like I'm
true.
with you, you know, for 10 weeks, 11 weeks, right? Like there's a lot more that can be built upon. So I'm glad.
For sure.
I've had conversations with a lot of professionals just like in like different settings where like I'll have a friend over here that I talk to and then I'll have a friend over here to talk to and they don't talk to each other and this person will be like, that person was so weird in the meeting and why aren't they doing something, you know? And you're like, well, they're going through something and you know that, but they don't know that, and so their perception of the person not bringing their A game is like, you know, sort of perceived in this way, but once they know, they're like, oh. And I think that's the thing that you're sort of pointing to, Joe, is like that's what I hear when I hear leverage, like when you slip, and like college is hard. College is like, I mean, super frustrating a lot of the time, I think, and you know, you're constantly challenging yourself to do new things and think in new ways. And if you're, you know, if you get sick, which people get sick, you know, like you want to be able to be like, I don't feel good, and then they'll say, oh, I know what's going on with you, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and ask
Yeah,
for
I think
letters of
it's great for
recommendation.
us. Yeah.
Always
It's
ask.
really about being able to build in space for grace, right? Because as soon as that person
Yes.
finds out what's going on, right, it's like, oh, my bad. Like, let me take a step back now. But if it was kind of already built in, and you can lead with that, right? It's almost like
Yep.
leading with love, right?
That's
Like, I don't
right.
want to like attack you. I don't want to hurt you.
Right.
Like, are you okay first and foremost? So,
Yes.
Right.
Yep. 100%. Lead with love and huddle. I'm taking notes.
right.
Our next question was going to focus on how, I guess we can go into this. We've covered some of it, I think, from the educator's standpoint and perspective, but how can students create a sense of belonging and foster peer-to-peer interactions in a virtual classroom?
I mean, can I just like, I mean, because I feel like at campus, this is becoming part like a central part of the infrastructure. And I don't know, like, because I think that over the last year that I've worked here, I feel like I've seen it grow. Maybe I've just gotten more access to it over time, but like there are like student clubs and like that are initiated and started by students that are like, you know, movie watching clubs and craft corners and these kinds of things. Like I think that kind of structure is so important just outside of the classroom, you know.
Right.
To do that same thing, right? To do what kind of we were just talking about with professors, that sort of open up space for grace between each other by getting to know each other in another context where, you know, you're not in a classroom and there isn't the sort of like, you know, just typical, like there's hierarchy in that space. There just is.
Right.
It's how it's set up. And but in a student group, you have a flattened hierarchical space where you can all be who you are and share your ideas or you know, I think that's the move. To really engage with extracurricular, sort of student centered and student led activities, I think is a wonderful way to do that. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely glad you said that because I sometimes say colleges, it is what it is. Classes are going to be what they are. But I learned so much more about myself outside of the classroom through like those
Right.
co-curriculars, extracurriculars, those student-led groups, those just really ways of being able to, you know, have camaraderie amongst like your peers, right? that's where I feel like I learned the most, right? And again, you're gonna learn what you're gonna learn, but you're out of class more than you are in class, right? So there's a lot more learning that's
Right.
kind of happening
Yeah.
on your own, if you will, and if you allow it to, that's kind of happening. So the fact that like you're able to create these own spaces for yourself that you're also interested in is really kind of like what brings it all together and have like a really dope culmination of your academics, personal life, and like just like what you want, like ultimately.
I love that. Yeah. What did you do extracurricularly?
Too much.
Did
So
you?
I was like on the e-board for like 5 years, with this group called Men Integrated in Brotherhood, and I was the president for like 2 years. So I was just always busy. Yeah, and just doing a lot on campus, and like it would be, times where I would leave my room at like 8 in the morning. I didn't get back till 8 at night, right? Because I was just
Oh
on
my
campus, just
gosh.
doing so many things. And then after that, then I joined a fraternity, and then I became president of that as well. So I really saw what it was
Oh,
like, which is why I was like, yo, my 4 classes, cool, yeah, I'm gonna go to them. But there's so much more that I have to worry about. Like I have to set up this
Yeah.
event, I have to get,
yep.
security details. I have to throw this party. I have to make sure everyone's safe. I have to make sure everyone knows like what these things are. So those were my extracurriculars.
Yeah. Ton
Ah,
of leadership there.
yeah. I feel like I
Yeah.
understand some things like about you now. Like
Yeah.
the pieces, things are
All
making
coming together.
connections.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Ugh, my experience extracurricularly, I think, might be more similar to Teresa's because I didn't start college until I was in my 20s, and I worked probably 3 jobs,
Yeah.
give or take, throughout my entire like community college experience, my undergrad experience, getting my teaching credential. Like I was constantly working, so I
Yeah.
would go to school in the morning or work in the morning, and then do homework at night or do whatever it was. Like it was nonstop. So there were a lot of like I couldn't do any of the fun college things because I had to work. And I think a lot of our students are also honing in on
Yeah.
those life skills that they're learning right now. And I hear from students, and this is my favorite thing, where they're like, things are starting to make sense and I'm using what I'm learning in class and applying it to real life. So they're applying it to their jobs. They're applying it to like their organizational skills or whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is invaluable. Like it sucks that they have to work because it's not fun being in college and working because it's stressful. But at the same time, like you can see who are natural born leaders and like really taking in this whole experience
Yeah.
and building a community not just with the folks that they have like in classrooms but also a community where they're taking their knowledge and they're applying it outside of the classroom as well.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
What else we got here? I feel like that brings me to another question that I kind of have. Um, that's kind of off of that. I think it's like, how do maybe you employ or like allow students to kind of foster like their own why and their reason for like wanting to go to school? Like, how do you, or are there certain ways that you like build that into like your curriculum to like what you
Mhm.
have going on, for students to kind of remember that, stay in tune with that, to get them to the next quarter, because that's what it feels like sometimes we're just trying to get them to the next quarter.
Yeah.
So do you have anything kind of like that's kind of built in, or that you kind of do?
I this quarter I started doing a new thing that I'm working into my curriculum throughout the work, my teaching work, and I really believe in it. It's asking students to do social identity mapping first,
Mm,
so and then to build a positionality statement. And these are two assignments in the beginning of the term that are worth 10% of their grades each. But I don't grade them. I give they do it and they earn the points. And so like the social identity map is about describing the the things, how they identify, like sort of the facets of their identity, that sort of help us understand how they see the world. And inform why they're going to do the work that they're going to do, why they're here, kind of a thing. So we go through this big long list. It was a great first class, actually. We went through this long. I posted up a sort of like a table of some facets of identity that I came up with. I looked in different places and found criteria or whatever. Sexual identity, gender identity, race, ethnicity, age, social class, like linguistic background. We talked about like I was like, what else is there? And people were like, well, like astrology and like your Myers-Briggs type indicator, if you're an introvert or an extrovert. And so all these things just became like totally on the table. Like anybody could pull anything. You didn't have to. We had a conversation about what's like public information and what's personal information that you're willing to share and what's totally private information. Don't share that, right? Like share the things that you're comfortable sharing with folks. And then and so people sort of like listed their facets and then described their emotional sort of feelings about those, and like I should probably look at the assignment because I'm just destroying like how it's written, but sort of what that facet makes you think about, or how it sort of manifests in the world. And then they write a positionality statement using that the next week, where they talk about sort of who they are in this context, where they're coming from, and how who they are informs the research they want to do, or the like the degree, what they're going to do within the degree, with the degree, and beyond the degree. And they're awesome. Like they're beautiful. Everyone is totally unique to the person who wrote it, and it's just like it was like a really nice way to start the term. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I don't know if that, it might not be at all clear what even is happening there. Like I could send you the prompts, but they're
no,
nice.
But it sounds like it. Yeah, it's before you get deep into the work, kind of identifying and seeing, I guess, like who you are first, but maybe even like where you're from, before you decide to like figure out in which lens and perspective do you want to look through before this class continues.
Yep. It's about the lens on your camera, like the lens on your world, right?
Right.
The idea is that your perception of the world is totally unique to your experience, leading up to every moment. And so how do you describe that for people, so that they understand, what informs the way that you see things?
Yeah.
Nice.
And again, I go back to how good Theresa is at building community and safe spaces in her class. Like that's a really incredible assignment to kick off the quarter.
It was really cool to see them talk to each other about it. When we introduced it in the class, I had people select their sort of criteria the first class, and then decide if that was something they were comfortable sharing, and then put it in the chat. And then look at the people's, and everybody scrolled up and looked at everyone's shared criteria, and then they responded to one person who they identified with, who they had maybe a shared experience or experiences with, and told them that, and said why they were excited to be in the class with them. And then one person who they had a very different experience from, and what they hoped to learn from them, and why that made them excited to be in the same space. And they like, I was like crying at the end of class. I was like not letting them see, because I'm very but I was like, oh my God. They like, and it was really nice.
Nice. There you go. There you go. Okay.
Can't let them see your very human reactions.
No, I know. It was like, well, it's fine. We'll just move on now. And later, Wilhelmina was like, why do we close that down so fast? After like everybody was, was like, I was really emotional and I had to move on. Like,
that's funny.
With with an assignment like that, where like you're really asking students to open up and like dig deep and think about their why and think about who they are, do you revisit that assignment at the end of the quarter, or have them like do any kind of self-reflection, looking back and seeing like where they were day one versus like week 10?
I think I will. I don't. I hadn't loaded it in to the course initially. Like this was it was a jumping off point. It was a sort of, you know, situating yourself kind of an activity. I used to do a student self-efficacy assignment always that was like set 3 goals and then we'll revisit that throughout. Personal goals that don't have anything to do with the like assignments or anything, but
Right.
I mean that do, but like that aren't related to the course objectives that are your own personal.
Sure.
And that we revisited throughout. This one, I don't have it loaded in, but like as we move into, so right now we're moving into the research unit, and you know, positionality statements are something that really show up in certain like journals. You see it in certain like academic journals, especially like nursing journals, and a lot of research where people are like, you know, I'm a white woman, I'm a white cisgendered woman, and the work that I'm doing is in service to, but examines the health outcomes related to AAPI women and birth mortality outcomes, right? Or something like that, so that you're saying in front, right, who you are. So that's where that typically lives. It's usually, I've only seen it as like a discrete thing, but now that we're moving into the research, I'm like, I feel like we should come back to it probably toward the end of the synthesis unit, so that folks can reflect on what they started with when they said those things, and think about how they show that in their work, because it's kind of remarkable how unique and individual everybody's research is, and how deeply aligned everything that I'm seeing from them now is with those. And so I think to look at those, at that writing, and then and see it in their work will be rewarding for them. But yeah, I haven't yet.
Yes. That's a perfect way to kind of bring it all together. Like from the start
Yeah.
of the class, and like this is, you know, is this still true at the end of the class? And you know, are you still doing this for the right reasons and all of that? So no, I like that a lot. That's
Yeah.
good.
Or how have you changed? You know,
Yeah.
and because
Yeah.
everything's fluid, you know, and like, so we're always shifting in these ways and responding to, you know, our environments. Yeah, so I'll do it at the end of our, that's, so it's a plan now. I'm planning on it. Whatever, Yasmin.
Didn't mean to like pause a brand new assignment for you to introduce at the end. I'm
No, but
sorry.
I think it's like a great class, end of a class meeting activity, you know,
For
like,
sure.
so
Yeah.
you've been working like crazy on this thing. You just
Yep.
did a workshop. Um, you know, let's think about, or you're about to submit it like in a couple days, like let's think about
Right.
how you're showing what you set out to do. So I think
Like,
that's a great idea.
yeah. How have you changed? How have you grown? I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things too, is so many of our students are shocked at their own growth. Like we have to point it out as
Yeah.
coaches. Like
Right.
Yeah.
we have this like list of goals that they've been wanting to get to, and some, not everyone's the same. For some it takes weeks, for some it takes a couple days. But
Mhm.
the past few weeks I've been meeting with students, I'm like, you're doing it. You just did it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like it's happening. And they're like, thank you so much. It's all you. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm
You're like,
not
I'm
doing
just
the heavy
showing you.
lifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really great to see how they're evolving and growing and like gaining confidence in what they're doing.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. You have them write about that, or do you just talk with them in their meetings and stuff about
Yeah,
that?
we talk, like we as coaches, we have meetings every 3 weeks standard. Sometimes it's more depending on student need, but every meeting that we have, we set goals that they want to accomplish. It can be short-term, long-term, both. Look at where they at, like the reality of it, what they need to do.
I love that.
And it could be anything from, I want to get an A on this essay next week, or it could be, I want to apply to law school when I'm done with this. So it's like tracking those little things, milestones, to get them to the point that they want to be at.
I love that. I teach a bullet journaling class, and that's the class that I teach to earn my first year seminar on bullet journaling. But one of the things that I tell my students in that class is like, because a lot of it is list making and calendars. And I'm like, make your calendars, set your goals, do your lists. And then at the end of the term, I'm like, look at all you've accomplished.
Yep.
And then to add to that, I say, keep doing this and do this throughout your professional career, because this is documentation for you, so that when somebody comes to you and says, you're a hard worker, you do a lot, like, why don't you take on a little bit more? You can say, I am doing plenty. You can point to your list and be like, maybe if I have time, but right now my plate's full, or whatever, like you can say, like, I've done quite a bit actually. So I think that's really important. Like, I think the professional know is an important thing.
Having that visual as well. Oh, and it's so like bullet pointing something and then just being able to cross that off. Like, I did it. It feels so good.
I have books full of lists that I'm so proud of that have lines through everything. I love that. So
oh, that was great. Okay. Cool. I have one more question if you have time.
I totally have time.
One more. Okay. I just been
all the time in the world for you.
It's a good way to. Okay. Just one last one to kind of sum it all up. So, like, if you had to, give some advice, like, what is one key piece of advice you would give to students who are just starting their online learning journey?
I've thought about this a lot, because one piece of advice, that's so hard. But
it really is.
You're the one piece. Okay. Be a couple pieces.
Okay, I think for me it's about a sort of a mind frame, and I think I have suffered from this myself, and I think a lot of people coming into college experience this desire for everything to be perfect the first time. I would say, I think my best advice for any student is just understand that you come into the university or to the college setting, to your education, whatever level of education you're in. You're not there to prove what you already know. You're there to learn things you don't know, and that's super uncomfortable, and you won't be perfect at it at first. So have a growth mindset. Be comfortable with imperfections, and engage. Allow yourself to engage in sort of iterative thinking and work. So you go through the experience, and then you have to go and look at it and think about the ways that it needs to be improved yourself. Get outside help, feedback, eyes on things, and then return to it and move back through that and improve every time. Like, it's a constant evolution. And so so be comfortable with imperfections, and that, like, your imperfections are like your uniqueness, and that's it's all part of the journey. So yeah, I think that would be my advice.
So what I'm hearing is just do it.
Just do
essentially.
it.
Just do it, right? Like, you're here, just get it done. Even if it's like your first draft, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just being more consistent is better than being perfect.
Yeah.
It's something like that, right? So even just if you're doing something and actively moving towards this goal, like, that's better than not doing anything at all. And I think that's perfect. That's perfect.
I love the just do it, because I think athletes, I think professional athletes, this is what we see. We see this end result of a lifetime of dedicated, falling down and maybe breaking things or taking the shot over and over and over again until you find it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's perfect. Yeah,
That's a great analogy.
Yeah,
You're just seeing the tip of everything that has been done under the surface.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really messy all along the way.
I think that's a perfect segue. It's a perfect segue to take us out. Cool. That was just really helpful and really great way to kind of bring it all together. So thank you both for being here and your time as always and the gems that were shared here. So thank you again for joining us on our episode of Coach's Corner, where we explore the critical topic of optimizing instructor-student relationship in online learning. We hope you found this discussion insightful and valuable in navigating the world of vertical education. Thank you again to Professor Walsh and everything that you've been able to drop here for us. We appreciate this. And lastly, if you're not a campus student, we'd love to hear more. If you want to share more and hear more from you, we have different degree programs. And it's all about creating a community here. And you can find more if you visit us at campus.edu. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Catch you on campus.